Okay. We don't need you counting down right now. Cool. All right. So as I was starting to say last week, we spoke about colors and how colors can be impactful as brands, as your clients, how you can use them, how they can set different moods and all that fun stuff. So from here, we're actually going to move in and talk a little bit about logos a little bit, right? So the different types of logos that exist and how you can actually start to use them in your process, whether that is making sure that your client has one, or if you're throwing an event, making sure that you have that logo in place. What is the best one to use? We're going to get into that. One of the other things is going to be copyright and fair use. Shanzia, I'm going to try to make that one really exciting. I'm already standing, so I'm going to jump around a little bit, get my blood flowing so that when I talk about this not so exciting stuff, that I still can draw you in. All right. So I'll see if I can get that done. Michael, good to have you. And then lastly, we're going to talk about sound design. All right. Using sound, not in a major way, but using what you have, right? Using your cell phones, just making sure that you're able to capture audio. Because if you're going to be doing the project where where you do the podcast or you post the covers, you're going to have to record that. And you may not have access to a studio or have the budget for it, meaning that this is a school project. So, first and foremost, let's get into this. New biz, new logo, right? So, a logo is the image that symbolizes your business. But the question is, did you know that there were 7 different types of logos? 7. Pretty sure you didn't, but we can get into that. And the logo doesn't have to necessarily say what your business does off the bat. So if you have a pizza company, a pizza business, you don't need to have a pizza in your logo. It doesn't have to happen. You can be in the petroleum industry and your logo looks like a sun. There's a brand called BP. You could just go to Google and see what that looks like. It looks like a green and orange and yellow sunny day. It looks like the freshest thing ever. But this is petroleum. This is oil. This is gas, right? Not the most green industry to be in. Then you have things like Pepsi and Nike. Like, what do those things even mean visually? But we'll get into it. So here are the 7. You see them on the screen. Though they're all a combination of typography and images, each type of logo gives your brand a different feel. And since your logo is the first thing customers will see, you want to make sure you get it right. All right. The logo is also going to be used to set yourself apart. All right. Years ago, when let's talk cereal. If you had cereal, they didn't really have any fancy colors and fancy covers on them. It was just a box that contained cereal. You'll find it on a shelf, and that was it. However, when you get different people producing cereal, then the question became, how can my cereal stand out from this person next to me? So what people started to do is, let's say they put their name on it, right? This is Rock cereal, this is Griffith cereal, this is Hoyt cereal, right? And things started to evolve from there, right? Eventually, we started adding pictures. You said, you know what? My cereal really has some fresh strawberries in there. Well, all right. Well, my cereal, I use something else and I sprinkle a little sugar on top, sugar and cinnamon, like my grandmother does, right? All those things are part of your story, and you started to put those things into the onto the cereal. Yeah, I'm gonna call them. You can't see them on the screen. Is it blurry? Let me know if it's blurry on the screen, or if it just
Hi,
seemed that
good
there's
evening, sir. It looks a little bit blurred.
okay. So the 7 types is going to be abstract, mascot. All right, we got abstract, mascot. So abstract is like Pepsi, right? Pepsi is just 3 colors. You don't know if this is a drink, a shoe, An I, you don't know what this is. It's just abstract. Mascot, that is like KFC, right? Kind of self-explanatory. You have a person, a character, anything like that. And that's usually the mascot. Combination mark is something like Burger King, where there's an image and there's text going on, and it's also telling a visual story at the same time. Emblem, you would usually find this in a government organization of some sort, right? Universities, that sort of thing. Lettermark, the name of the business is not what you see, but you're going to see like the, what do you call those? Geez. Analogies is the word that comes to mind, and I know the word is not analogies. What is the word, guys? Help me. When you got letters that represent a name, like Batman.
Monogram.
Nah, not monogram.
Uh,
Mm.
um,
Anyway, I'm sure I have it in my.
I don't know what the
Abbreviation,
word
sir?
about.
Pardon?
An abbreviation?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
that's it. That's it. That's it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. All right, and then you have a pictorial mark, right? Like the Apple logo, and then you have a word mark, where the name of the business is exactly what you see. All right, those are the 7. So let's start with the first one, which is a letter mark or monogram. Okay, letter mark or monogram. So with the
Sir,
letter,
excuse me, what's number 3?
we're gonna get to it. We're starting with number 1 right now.
I just want you to call the name of it.
Combination mark.
Combination?
Yes,
Oh,
please. Our
okay, thank
combo.
you.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So monogram or letter marks. Monogram with 2 or 3 words to remember. They each turn to using their initials for brand identification purposes. So it makes perfect sense for them to use monograms, sometimes called lettermark logos, to represent their organizations. So a lettermark is a typography-based logo that has a few letters in it, usually the company's initials. So the lettermark is all about simplicity. By utilizing just a few letters, lettermark logos are effective at streamlining any brand if they have a long name. So how much easier is it for you to say and remember NASA instead of National Aeronautics and Space Administration? Right? Did you even know that NASA meant something besides NASA? You guys knew that? I didn't know that.
No,
I just thought it was NASA, like 100% NASA, just that. But apparently, it's more, right? National Aeronautics and Space Administration is what that is. You have CNN, you got IBM, you got HBO. All of those have crazy long names, but no one really cares because no one ever calls them by their crazy long names. All right. So furthermore, we have this one, another example, which is IBM. So if you're not an established business already, you may want to add your full business name below the logo so people could start to learn who you are. All right. Or they're just going to keep calling you by the short form that you introduced them to. All right. So if you start off and you name your business like, or you call your client by their short name and they have a first name, last name, then that's just a name that's going to go on forever and ever. Amen. So with monogram or letter marks, when we focus on the initials, the font you choose or create is very important to make sure your logo is not only on theme with what your company does, but also legible when you print it on business cards. All right, let's see what Katrina's saying. Okay, cool. Coca-Cola, right? Also one. So these are now, we were looking at monograms and letter marks. Now we're going into word marks, our logo type. Okay, this is when the name of the business itself is reflected by the name. You see it, and that's what it is. So Coca-Cola, there's nothing tricky about it. It is literally Coca-Cola. Over time, we shortened it as a culture to Coke, right? We put a whole K and an E in there that was never there before. We just did it. So word marks work really well when a company has um, a distinct name. So Google's name is a great example of this. The name itself is catchy and memorable. So when you combine strong typography, that's how the letters look. The logo creates even better brand recognition. All right. Coca-Cola, the way that Coca-Cola looks is very iconic. You know Coca-Cola just from a distance. You can't help but see it. If you see anything that even resembles this at all, you're like, wait, that look like the Coca-Cola font. It's not the word, but it looks like it to you, right? And you just automatically recognize it because your recognition is there. Other examples are like Visa. It's a Visa card, right? All this is a VISA, and there's that yellow thing in the top right, on the top left of the V. So, like a letter mark, typography is the important decision. So the focus will be on your name. You want to pick a font or create a font that captures the essence of what your business does. So for example, fashion labels tend to use clean, elegant typefaces that feel high end, while legal or government agencies almost always, just pick it up, almost always tend to use traditional, heavier text that feels secure, that feels like, strength. So the question here now is, this is just between the letter mark and the word marks, when to use them. So if you're thinking, I want you to think like merch, right? If you have a letter mark logo, which is your client's name, then condensing their name to two initials will help simplify your design. Likewise, fans or customers will have an easier time recalling your client. If you know the band Linkin Park, a lot of their merchandise is LP. Some of it may say Linkin Park for sure, but they might put LP on there as well. All right. Or it's just literally the word Linkin Park. So it helps with this context of merch when you're choosing what to do. The word mark, on the other hand, this is also a good decision if your client is new to the market and you need to get their name out there. Just make sure the name is short enough to take advantage of the design. So you don't want the person to have a crazy triple barrel last name and a double barrel first name, and you're trying to get people to remember who they are, right? Because then they're like, I can't even say your name. I don't even know what to type when I go to Instagram or YouTube. So if you're brand new, no one knows you, no one trusts you as yet, you can use your name so they get familiar, right? As they get more and more familiar, you can start to drop things off and let people focus on other things. Right now, you can see an ad for Nike and you do not have to see Nike on it. You can see an ad for Coca-Cola and you don't need to see the word Coca-Cola. All you need to see is the silhouette of that bottle in white on a red background, and you know what it is. All right, that's what brand recognition does. That's what having something that's so memorable that you take up a space. So anytime the colors are used in combination with text or imagery, people already believe this is what it is. All right. I'm not sure if you guys may have been driving around Haggett Hall recently. If you were coming from the Polytechnic heading towards Sky Mall on the left, there's that wall where people have been starting to use billboards. There was Guinness Smooth. They had a banner, a billboard there. They recently took it down and just replaced it. But Guinness Smooth have a particular look, right? It looks amazing to me. I personally don't drink Guinness, but I like how the stuff looks.
sir, I saw when that was being done,
Okay.
and the guys that did it, it was like decal or stickers that they put on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right. And it's very eye-catching. Like it's very distinctive. There's not a lot of things that look like that. Right. And it takes up a whole wall. So it's pretty good. All right. So let's keep it moving. All right. So both lettermark and wordmark logos are easy to replicate across marketing material and branding. So this makes them very adaptable options for a new and developing client base. All right. So this can work on anything. Why? They're just letters. You don't need to interpret anything. Once you read it, you know what it is. Moving on, we have these pictorial marks or logo symbols. This is when the logo is very strongly tied to something visual. So right here on the screen, you already know who they are. You have Apple, well, Twitter, what used to be Twitter. Now it's X, but I'm gonna still go with Twitter. And Target, right? They're all distinctive. You can point them out in a room. The bullseye, the apple with the bite in it, and the bird with the open mouth. So a true brand mark is only an image because of this, right? Because of the instant recognizability that it has. And it can be a tricky logo type, a tricky type of logo for new companies or those without strong brand recognition to use. So if you're thinking about your client, their name may be a better starting point than if you develop an image to go with who they are, right? So if you feel like they're a lightning bolt and you just start putting lightning bolts all over the place until people get familiar and associate your client with the lightning bolt, it's going to be difficult to get that communication done, right? It's not going to be as clear as you might want it to be. When their recognition gets to the point where people just know it, then for sure, you don't even need to say the name. All right. That's what Nike does. That's what happens with Nike. Apple doesn't put the word Apple on their logo, on their ads. They just put the Apple icon. All right. Let's go into this abstract situation now. So I told you guys about this one, BP. So famous examples of abstract logo marks would be BP, this starburst looking sunflower situation. That is BP. Pepsi is a circle that's divided by this little white thing in the middle. And then a Adidas flower. So Adidas is interesting because they have like what? Two or three different logo marks that they use. I'm not completely sure when they use them, but they have this one and then they have the three stripes that are kind of like diagonal. But I'm not too sure the context to which they use one over the other. All right, so like all logo symbols, abstract marks work really well when you condense your brand into a single image. However, instead of being restricted to a picture or something recognizable, abstract logos, what they do is allow you to create something truly unique to represent the brand. So these images probably never existed in this way before, and are able to create this space, right? Which is one of the things that you really want to do when you're working with a brand, when you're working with individuals. You want to create something that feels new in the space so that you now hold that space for yourself. All right. So if you decide that you want to be a rapper and you're from Brooklyn, chances are that feeling, that vibe already exists. How are you going to stand out? You have artists like Little Dicky. One, he's white. Two, he looks very socially awkward, but he's got bars at the same time. So he just stands out. Okay. Who else? You have artists like Teddy Swims that visually on arrival, you might not think he has the voice that he has. But when he starts to open his mouth, you're like, oh my gosh, okay. It's an experience now to witness this person come on stage. All right. And then you could think of the millions of first timers that are able to see this person perform live. So similar to that, abstract logo marks, they get to set the stage, right? It never existed before. And as such, you're starting with a blank canvas completely, right? Can it be a challenge? Absolutely. Because what really is Adidas? Right? If you just saw this somewhere, like you don't know what this is at all, it's not a problem. But that starts to tell you that, okay, I don't have to be as obvious as I once thought I need to be. All right. So the benefit of an abstract mark is that you're able to convey what your company does symbolically without relying on cultural implications of a specific image. So through color and form, you can give meaning and cultivate emotion around your brand. All right. So those are things that you can do with abstract. All right. All right. So type number 5, mascots. All right. You can read on screen. So the mascot is simply an illustrated character that represents your company. So think of this as the ambassador for your business. Famous mascots we have include the Kool-Aid Man, KFC's Colonel Sanders, Planters, Mr. Peanut. All of these are famous mascots that are associated with the logo itself. You have the Pringles mustache guy, right? All of these famous. Right? Mascots are great for companies that want to create a wholesome atmosphere by appealing to families and children. All right. So I want you to think about these things when we are thinking strategically about what we're doing. Remember, the course is digital communication and design. Every choice that you make is on purpose, it's intentional. You're not guessing. If you have a mascot, you're able to turn that mascot into a real life experience if you want to. You don't have to rely on influencers or human looking things. You have this mascot that you can give character to, and you can let someone dress up like the character, the mascot, at any point in time. Right? Once they fit inside the thing, you are good to go. All right. So think of all the mascots at sporting events, the great dynamic they have when they get involved with the audience. So you're at a basketball game, you're at a cricket game. Personally, I think our secondary schools should have mascots, and we should have a mascot competition. I think that would be great. But on Island, we seem to have this affinity with using existing examples all the time. Our basketball teams are named after NBA teams. Like, why? Why do we have Cavaliers? Why do we have Bulls? Why? All right. We don't have anything in our culture that we could pull on. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. But in terms of secondary schools, like imagine, what is it? What was I thinking? Like Queens College. I was thinking of the Queens College Royals, Lodge School Griffins. Got anybody from Lodge? Anybody in my Lodge? No? Okay. Jeez, two logists, right? You got, yeah, Griffins, Harvester College Lions. What else? What else? I was thinking Conmere Nationals because you know what I mean, blue and yellow. I don't remember if I had one for St. Michael's.
Sir,
I
how
know.
dare you not to have anything for my code?
Well, I know right now you guys are cougars, but
Yes, we are.
we also don't have cougars in Barbados. You know what I mean? So like
You got layers either.
I know, we ain't got lions. We definitely don't got griffins, right? But that those schools have the crest, and the crest is old school, and the crest do the whole thing. So yeah, you could get rid of all of them. But I guess it's like depending on the animal, it may not give the sporty dominance that the images have. Like you can imagine a school calling itself a mongoose. Like, you don't really sound threatening as a mongoose, right? Springer hummingbirds, like really, that sound a little soft.
I think if you add a descriptive line in front of it or a descriptive word in front of the mongoose, the menacing mongoose, I think now you
There you
have
go.
the, so that's what we do. No matter whatever animal we choose to use, so because for some reason we're using animals, but I would find a descriptive word to convey the message of how exactly you want it to be seen.
Yeah,
And if you could find a letter that starts with the same word that you're planning to use to describe it, and you could get a bit of alliteration going on to have a ring to it.
yeah, for sure. So all of those are options. But by having mascots, you have the opportunity now to create an experience that wasn't necessarily there before, right? Into school sports with mascots, I think would be hilarious. Like, what can the mascots do? And can the mascots do stuff for points? Right? Why not? Why not? Because if we could have cheerleaders, I think we could have mascots. Only recently, the cheerleaders are actually cheerleading. Before, cheerleaders just used to go on the field and walk up in a circle.
Cheer that, sir.
Pardon? Cheer dance?
Yeah, they never used to cheerlead.
Yeah, cheer dance.
Where
I
they
think it
never
was
used to
just,
do the stunts and stuff like that. The lifts and they never used to do that.
yeah,
But now they're more into it because they have people who are actually training them in that direction as opposed to cheer dance.
yeah. Foundation for sure. I think Lodge.
SMS,
Pardon?
St. James, SMS, Frederick Smith, Parsons. Yeah, a lot of them going in that direction.
Yeah. And when you think about it, these are lanes that we may not have been in before, but there's still opportunity, right? You could start doing cheerleading in Barbados. You could go to a college, continue doing cheerleading, and then the States has a whole thing about cheerleading. Why not? Why not? Anywho, we talking about logos, not this. So combination marks. All right. With a combination mark, people will also begin to associate your name with a visual pictorial mark or a mascot right away. So in the future, you may be able to rely on the logo alone because you built that brand equity to begin with, right? And all brand equity is the amount of people that know and recognize your brand just by seeing it. They see it and they immediately know who you are. So that's like anytime we see purple and yellow, we immediately go to Shafat, right? Immediately, at least for now. By the time in the end of our class, um, who that was, whose client is it? Mm, somebody's client is purple and gold, not yellow. Okay, where were we? So,
I think that's Jamon's client, if I remember correctly.
yeah. All right, so in the future, you may be able to rely exclusively on this logo, so you don't always have to show the name. And what also happens is sometimes it creates a story by itself. So this Burger King logo right here, we have two buns with red Burger King in the middle. The words Burger King look like burgers inside a bun. So when you look at it, you think a burger. And then when you read it, you also think a burger. And then it's called Burger King. Right? So immediately you get it. It makes sense. Right? It makes sense, and it's not necessarily 100% cheesy. If they put a crown on this, however, then that will be 100% cheesy. But they don't need to put a crown on it. Why? They have a physical mascot who's not the logo, who happens to be a king. All right. So that's where you start to pull things and pull them together so that everything works. Your clients can do the same thing. They too can have a mascot. So now emblems, right? Emblems look similar to pictorial marks. They also look similar to mascots, but the way that they're set up feels more like a badge, feels more like a crest. So we have the Starbucks mermaid. The mermaid is because the shipping lanes that were used for taking coffee. So that was kind of like the process that they took, right? So Starbucks, coffee, how did we get coffee? There were these shipping lanes. All right, if you're on the sea all the time, is there anything interesting out there? Mermaids. This is like a mermaid. Okay, cool. Let's grab a mermaid. Starbucks coffee, mermaid. Do mermaids drink coffee? Probably not. Why have a sea visual for a commodity that grows on land? It's not a direct tie, but it allows for what we're seeing right in front of us. You have this crest that is literally, the image is a mirror, right? It's just, you could cut this in half, and when you flip it, it just matches. So these logos tend to have a traditional appearance about them, right? That can make them striking, it can make them impactful, and they're often the go-to choice for many schools, organizations, government agencies. The automotive industry is also fond of emblems. You can see that in the way that the emblem is on the cars, right? If you're thinking Chrysler, if you think Ford, if you think Mercedes, kind of like all of those shapes, BMW, those shapes and how they fit on the car like it was branded, they all fit this kind of, this mold of this emblem. All right, so there are others that have a classic style. Some companies have effectively pushed their emblems into the 21st century. So case in point here, Starbucks with their mermaid, Harley Davidson with their crest. Right? Those are all examples of, right, these 7 types of logos that have different purposes. They can all be used in specific ways, but once you know what they are and how they're usually interpreted, you can still take those and make them your own. All right. And that's something you could do with your clients. That's something you could do with businesses that your clients may be looking to do for you yourself as a future manager, knowing how to position yourself because of the service that you want to offer your personnel, right? You put your ideal clients. You can choose the style of logo so that you do it, so that you stand out, right? It doesn't have to be the traditional version. The traditional logo tends to be a word mark that has a pictorial mark with it. This is what people usually do. All right, these two right here. You see it all the time. But you have other things that can be done. If you go abstract, who can tell you not? All right. So that is the first phase, right? Quick 40-minute run. What I'll do is, all right, I'm gonna go for 20 minutes from here into copyright. Then we're gonna take a break because that copyright chunk is pretty lengthy. All right, so I'm gonna start here. do that, or do you guys want a 5-minute break right now? We can do 5 now.
Nah, sir, you could continue.
All right, cool. Shanti, how we doing? We still alert and active?
Yes.
All right, sweet. All right, moving on. We are now in the lovely world of, wait, hold on.